we're going to look at writing a fraction as a decimal. So in the upper left, we have a fraction, 3 over 10, and the way it's pronounced is 3/10. So this fraction here says 3/10, so we're going to write 3/10. So on the left, we have 3/10 in fraction form, and then right here, we have 3/10 in decimal form. They're completely equal. They are equivalent. It's just this is written as a fraction, and this is written as a decimal. Let's look at the next one. We have 19 over 100. It's pronounced 1900ths. So I'm going to write 1900ths. So this says 1900ths. This says 1900ths. They're completely equal. One's a fraction and one is a decimal. Now the next one, 127,000. So if I wanted to write that as a decimal, I write 127,000. Now let's look at the next column. We have 700ths. So 700ths looks like this. 700ths. I have to make sure that 7 is in the hundreds place because we have 700ths over here. So we have 700ths as a fraction, 700ths as a decimal. They're completely equal. The next one says 5 and 1/10. So I would write 5 and 1/10. So 5 and 1/10, 5 and 1/10. Fraction form, decimal form. Now the next one, 2 and 13 thousandths. So we have 2 and 13 thousandths right here. Now these ones are a little bit easier, and the reason is because these fractions have denominators of 10, 100, or 1,000. See, denominator of 10, denominator of 100, denominator of 1,000, like that. Because decimals are out of 10, out of 100, out of 1,000. So these ones are easier. But let's look at some harder ones. So now, at the top, I have 3/5. Now that's not out of 10, that's not out of 100 or 1,000, and I can't say 3/5 looks like that because this says 3/10, and so my fraction is 3/5, not 3/10. So 3/10 is not my answer. So I'm remembering those other ones were really easy because their denominators were 10 or 100 or 1,000, just like decimals, out of 10, out of 100, out of 1,000. Well, I'm going to use equivalent fractions here to write a fraction that's equivalent to 3/5 with a denominator of 10, 100, or 1,000. So I'm going to choose 10 as my new denominator. And now I'm going to make equivalent fractions here. So I'm going to multiply the denominator times 2 because 5 times 2 is 10. So now I'm going to do the numerator times 2. And 3 times 2 is 6. So now 3/5 is equivalent to 6/10 because I multiplied the numerator and denominator times 2. And that's how you make an equivalent fraction. So now, if 3/5 is the same as 6/10, now I can write 6/10 like a decimal. 6/10 right here. So 3/5 is equivalent to 6/10. Now let's look at the one in the middle. We have 7/20. So now I'm going to make an equivalent fraction, and I'm going to make that denominator be 10, 100, or 1,000. Now I can't choose 10 because 20 times no whole number equals 10. But I can choose 100 because 20 times 5 equals 100. So now I multiply the denominator times 5. I'll multiply the numerator times 5. 7 times 5 is 35. So 7/20 is equivalent to 3,500. So now there's my decimal, 3,500. Now let's look at the next one, 1/4. So I'm going to make the denominator a 10 or 100 or 1,000. 10's not going to work, but 100 will work because 4 times 25 makes 100. So I'm going to multiply the numerator times 25. 1 times 25 is 25. So 1/4 equals 2,500. Oh, 2,500. I can write that decimal, 2,500. Here's some more. We have 9/50. So 9/50, I'm going to make the denominator 100. And now 50 times 2 is 100, so I'm going to multiply the numerator times 2. 9 times 2 is 18. We've got 18 hundredths. There we go. 9/50th is equivalent to 18 hundredths. 9/50th is in fraction form. 18 hundredths is in decimal form. Now we have the middle one, 3/25ths. So now I'm going to make my denominator a 10, 100, or 1,000. 10's not going to work. 100 will work. 1,000 will work too, but 100 is much more practical. So now 25 times 4 is 100. So I'm going to multiply the numerator times 4. 3 times 4 is 12, so 12 hundredths. And just like that. Here's the next one. We've got a mixed number, 7 and 11/20. So I know my answer is going to be 7 and some decimal. It's 7 and some more. So I'm going to take the 11/20ths and write that as a decimal. So I'm going to make my denominator 100. 20 times 5 is 100. So 11 times 5 is 55. So 11/20ths is equal to 55 hundredths. So now we have 7 and 55 hundredths. So 7 and 55 hundredths, like that. Now let's say I have 3 7s. Now, I can't make the new denominator a 10, because 7 times no whole number is 10. I can't do 100, because 7 times no whole number is 100. I can't even do 1,000, because 7 times no whole number is 1,000. So this process is not going to work here, and it doesn't always work. But in 5th grade, you'll be getting problems where it does work. But if we have 3 7s, and I want to write it as a decimal, what I need to do is do 3 divided by 7. So it would look like this, 3 divided by 7. Now, we haven't learned how to do this yet in 5th grade. We'll learn it soon, but we haven't learned it yet because I'm dividing a smaller number by a bigger number, 3 divided by 7. But if I use a calculator and do 3 divided by 7, my calculator says 0.42857, and it actually goes on, and it keeps repeating. But if I round this, say, to the nearest hundredth here, here's the hundredths place, then I would get 43 hundredths. So 3 7s over here is equivalent to 43 hundredths, about 43 hundredths, because I did round here to the nearest hundredths place. And pretty much the only way to figure it out is through 3 divided by 7. And so I used a calculator to do my 3 divided by 7, although later in the year you will learn how to divide a smaller number by a bigger number. But if it is possible to make the denominator 10, 100, or 1,000, it's a lot easier. So if we have 12/50ths, yes, you could do 12 divided by 50, but I'm noticing that I can make the denominator a 10, 100, or 1,000, so it's going to be a lot easier. I can make it 100. 50 times 2 is 100. 12 times 2 is 24. So we've got 24 hundredths as our answer, and we're all done. It would be a little bit tougher to do 12 divided by 50, so if you can make the denominator 10, 100, or 1,000, go for it because it'll be a lot easier.